start. People are trickling in now, but we might as well start,
Yeah.
So I suppose a very good morning to all of you, and great to see so many of you here this morning. For some of you who don't know me, my name is Johanna Murphy. President of the Chamber, the Cobh and Harbour Chamber. You might be looking at the background this morning. I'm sitting in the study in Photo House and feel very much the lady of the manor, I have to say. And thank you so much to Catherine Murphy, who runs all the events here in Photo House. We're really hoping to have one of our corporate events here in July, a summer barbecue out in the garden. So hopefully, due to levels, if we can do that, we'll let you know. So just a few housekeeping points. We're going to record the session, and that will be available on our website in the next couple of days. We just ask everyone to press your mute button, and we'd encourage you to ask questions through the chat forum there at the end, after Seamus's and Owen's chat. So I hope you're all okay. I think this lockdown has been pretty tough on people and has certainly been the longest lockdown. But I suppose light is at the end of the tunnel. The vaccine is rolling out and it will be here, hoping to get a lot of the population vaccinated even by July. So I suppose this year is going to be still a bit tough for everybody, but at least we know we're coming to the end of it, and please God, it will be our last lockdown. So myself as president, along with all the other chamber officers, we're available to assist any of the local businesses that are going through a hard time at the moment. So just to kind of let you know that. I suppose a lot of people ask me about Cobh over the last 50 years and how it's transformed and evolved. I remember coming down here in the 70s to visit my grandmother, and Cobh was very much an industrial town. It was a place that you would only come if you were living here or working here. You had Irish Steel, you had Rome Dockyard, you had all the pharmaceutical companies coming into the harbour. So it was in full flight. Then in the 80s and 90s, the bust came for the whole country. Cobh particularly suffered because it was, as I said, an island that you'd only come if you had a purpose for being here. So to be fair to the government and to Cork County Council, an initiative was put in place, a strategic plan, in 2001 to reinvent Cobh as a tourist destination, which we absolutely did. And that, I suppose, the first thing we had to do was improve the transport system, the rail system, which has been imperative to the success of Cobh over the last, I suppose, 50 years at this stage. Then we had the introduction, obviously, Spike Island, the redevelopment of Spike Island, which has become a #1 tourist spot. We had the Heritage Centre, the Titanic Experience. We have Michael Martin here from the Titanic Trail. We have, the cathedral is a huge hotspot, Cobh Museum, the list is endless. But I think that what really, really put Cobh on the map is the cruise line industry. And I feel when the cruise line industry came into Cobh, it had just such a positive effect and spin-off, not just for Cobh, but for the region. And you must understand that with regards to, with regards to the, just lost my train of thought there. Like when the cruise line industry come in, you have the crew, you have the passengers, you have the spectators coming from all around the country to see these amazing vessels, and then the financial spin-off for that is fantastic. So we then had the animation teams coming out, the arts and crafts, markets, music. The footfall of Cobh has been increasing so much over the years. So heart in hand, I can say for the last 10 years, Cobh has had a very, very good time. 2019 was excellent. We won Best Cruise Destination for 17, 18 and 19, which a lot of people don't know about. I suppose then, when the pandemic hit, a lot of people were very much in despair. They said, the work that they put in over the last 20 years, what was going to happen? But I suppose we dealt with what we could. Cork County Council came in, gave us a few initiatives to open our town for business. All of a sudden we had 20,000 people, which we nearly have, living on our great island, who couldn't go to work, kids couldn't go to school, they had to embrace, they had to explore the island. A lot of people said to me they couldn't believe how beautiful Cobh was and how big it was. Then you had the buzzword, the staycationing for the summer. That again, so it got us through last year, and it will probably get us through this year. But nothing will make up for the times that we've had. But those times are in sight again. And I do believe the future is very, very bright for Cobh. We have a new public realm coming in to play in the next 2 years. Our main drainage system is nearly finished. We have Cork Harbour is being spotted, has been, I suppose, earmarked for the strategic hub for wind energy, which again will bring huge employment and connectivity, which I think is really, really important, that Cobh is able to connect with Cork Harbour and the city. So I suppose all in all, while we're going through a hard time right now, the future is so bright for Cobh, and we must really try and hang on to that. So thank you for that. So just moving on, I suppose we have Port of Cork, who have worked, we have worked really, really well with Port of Cork over so many years. And we're really delighted that they're our sponsors for our breakfast series 2021. And here this morning, as a representative for the Port of Cork is Chief Marketing Executive, Conor Moulds. So I'll hand over to you now, Conor.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Johanna. And good morning and a warm welcome to all of the members attending here today. We are delighted once again to be in a position to sponsor the series of breakfasts, and particularly so as tourism plays a huge part of Port of Cork's business, as Johanna has referenced in terms of cruise. And we, as much as many of the people here today, have been affected quite significantly by the impact of the pandemic. And maybe to articulate that point, in 2020, we handled 2 cruise vessels, as you all know, and that's out of a planned 100 vessels that we had booked to Cobh in Cobh and indeed Cork. So it's been quite a stark situation for the Port of Cork, and one that is unlikely to be repaired in any significant way, probably 2022 at this stage. We still hold out some hope for some winter cruising towards the latter half of the year. Another area that's been affected for us in the tourism sector is our passenger ferry activities. As you know, not only were they effectively stopped last year, but we had the bad news only last week that the Cork to Roscoff ferry, which had come back earlier in March, has now been pushed back to May. One thing, however, is one thing that we are being clearly told repeatedly by the ferry operators and the cruise operators who we are working very closely with, is that the key to getting our industry back up and running again is collaboration between the authorities, the port authorities, tourism authorities and initiatives, tourist attractions. All work together to ensure safe protocols that we can, so that will enable us confidence in our industry again, and in help the return and the successful return. I've had the privilege to work with our guest speaker, the regional contribution to the National Tourism Task Force last year. And so I'd like to take this opportunity, Seamus Heaney from Cork, who I am sure will give us all some guidance and reassurance at this time of uncertainty as to the efforts that our colleagues in Pure Cork are making. So, Seamus, thank you.
So before we go to Seamus, we're going to introduce our first spotlight, which is John Crotty, manager of Spike Island. So Spike Island has played a huge part in the journey of success for Cobh. So over to you, John.
Thank you so much, Johanna. Thanks to everybody at the Chamber for having us on this morning. For anyone that doesn't know me, my name is John Crotty. I've been inmate at Spike Island Cork for 5 years now. I run Spike Island Development Company, who are owned by Cork County Council. For anyone that doesn't know us, we are actually a not-for-profit business. Our sole reason for existence is for the development of Spike Island to grow visitors to Cobh and into Cork Harbour. We've been trying to get groups to Cobh now and trying to get them off, I guess, the regular tourist path that goes on. That's taking them, I suppose, from Dublin and across to the west, about 80% of course flying into Dublin. So we're trying to get them off these very traditional routes, I guess, that they have, especially the American markets, and convince them to come off the Blarneys, down that bit further south and down into Cork City and down across the Cobh. That's been going quite well until a few years ago. We grew our numbers from 27,000 in our first year to 81,000 in 2019. We're having some success with the cruise liner industry. We had just under half of the liners send us a group last year, so that's keeping them in Cobh. It's keeping them in the area. But again, it's a battle for us, and it's a tough fight to try and convince them to not go to those more traditional sites. I think it's a battle that we're starting to win, and we're doing that with Cobh by really pushing a fantastic day out in the town itself and with a trip across to the island, or utilizing some of the other fantastic attractions in Cobh town itself. To that end, we do regular tours, we do night tours, and we're moving increasingly into the event industry as well, trying to capture the people who might be looking for something other than a historical day out to come and use the Cobh region and Cork Harbour. We certainly hope to see that grow in the coming years, and we are reaching out to everybody in Cobh in every way that we can this year. Very much a domestic year for us, obviously, and we'd love to see everybody come back and see what we've done since we reopened in 2016. This year is 100 years since the centenary of the 1921 prison on Spike Island, so a very important year for us, and we're celebrating it with bells on. If you do know of anybody, I guess, in Cobh as well that does have a connection with Spike Island, we've got a very large historical project going on at the moment, and we really hope to tell the social history of the island as one of the next features. I think we're very strongly associated with the prison, we're very strongly associated with the fortress, and not quite as strong with the social history, which is a shame because it is very, very popular with the American market in particular, and there is a bit of interest in the UK. So if you know of anybody in Cobh that does have a connection to Spike and any bit of a history, we'd love for them to get in touch. So do please send them across to us with their stories. So that's everything for me. Thanks again to Johanna, and I look forward to working with you all to bring more visitors into Cobh.
Thank you, John. And also just to let you know that John has very kindly offered to run a corporate chamber event in June, if obviously levels allow. So that would be great. So again, with great pleasure to introduce our second spotlight speaker, Michael Carolyn, who's manager of Credit Union in Cobh. The Credit Union again has played a huge plays a huge part in the community of Cobh, and especially in these very difficult times. So welcome this morning, Michael. Over to you.
Thanks, Johanna, and congratulations on your presidency. I was just before. I have a very short presentation. As I said, I have a minute, and it literally fits into 1 minute 10 seconds. So bear with me, and I'll share the screen in a minute. But I was listening to you there to start, and you were reminiscing about when you used to come to Cobh in the 70s. Both myself and another participant today, Dr. Michael Martin, also came to Cobh in the 70s. And I think we realized, certainly I realized, and I'm sure Michael did, and has made a very successful career of it, realized the gem that Cobh is, that I think an awful lot of people didn't realize at the time, but I think over time, I think people do realize what Cobh is. I suppose from ourselves, from our own perspective, we run a credit union in Harbour Road, and if you see the picture behind me, it's an illustration of that's Harbour Road back, I think, at about 1910 or 1920. You can see how bustling it was as an industry for business. So as I said, I have a short presentation. As I said, I'll run it, a little bit of music in the background. Hope you'll enjoy it. So I'll just share my screen as everybody tells me. If you tell me, Joanne, it's okay. Everybody see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yes. Okay, that's it. As I said, it was literally just going to be over a minute. I think it just encapsulates our position in, I suppose, the financial world. And the second last slide I would have shown you that we've been awarded the best customer experience for the last 6 years in a row. And as I said, no other financial institution comes close. Now, I'm conscious there might be bankers listening today, so I won't prolong the agony any longer. Thanks, Joanne.
Thank you so much, Michael. You might just stop sharing your screen there, Michael, if that's okay. Okay, great. So we're coming now to the guest speakers. So it's a great pleasure to introduce Seamus Heaney, Head of Visit Cork, which I'm sure you all know here this morning, and also digital expert Owen Kennedy of Update Digital. So Seamus comes from a hospitality background of nearly 30 years of experience in developing tourism in Ireland. So I suppose if anyone has any questions this morning is probably the apt time. So over to you, Seamus.
Don't put me on the spotlight anyway. I suppose the presentation I'm going to do is quite short because Owen and myself have agreed we'll keep it short and we'll keep the time for loads of questions afterwards. We're very happy to answer any questions from anybody afterwards. First of all, I would like to sincerely apologise for the change of date. Unfortunately, last week my dad passed away. So, and thank you to Joanne and to Lee for facilitating the date change. I know I'm talking this morning to what I would call SARS of tourism in Cork, and Cobh has an abundance of these people. Whether living in Cobh or whether they're in business in Cobh, the likes of John Gately, Conor Moles, Kevin Cullinan, Aaron Mansworth, all of these people are experts in it. And I think, like, while our presentation is going to be quite short, and I'd love to allow the time afterwards for lots of questions, and I would really hope that people will get involved in any questions, and we'll try and answer them as best we can. So I'll just kind of run through the presentations, and then I'll introduce Owen, who's going to join me afterwards on it as well. So I'm just going to take my lead from Lee. Am I okay here, Lee, do you think?
All good, Seamus.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So I suppose just a little bit of who Visit Cork is and a little bit about it. So we have a board of Visit Cork, which is the Cork Convention Bureau and the Pure Cork. And I'm sure you've heard of both of these brands. So we've kept the brands very much in line with what Cork has to offer as a maritime haven. You can see the porthole in the O in Cork. The same in both of them. We've kept the logos very similar so that people know what we have to offer. I suppose we would have loved, and I keep telling the story, that at the time when, back in 2015, the Cork Convention Bureau at that time was about 7 years old, and the role of Cork Convention Bureau at that time was, and which still is to go out and bid for international conferences and events to come to Cork. At the time we were very lucky with the likes of John Gately on our board and Kevin Cullinan. And for 10 years, we plodded along with Cork Convention Bureau, trying to win conference business and event business into Cork, and making Cork, a relevant place to win that kind of business. And then in 2015, there was a strategy undertaken by Fáilte Ireland. They said business tourism is working very well in Cork. We'd love you to add a leisure piece to that. And I know Anne-Marie O'Sullivan, who was on the call here, was very instrumental in that strategy, in setting up that strategy. Out of that came Visit Cork, and out of Visit Cork, I suppose the simple thing was they went to a brand and destination company to try and come back with a nice brand, and ultimately we'd have all loved if they came back with a nice logo for Visit Cork, but they felt that Cork was a pure destination in lots of ways. It had a lot of history. It was purity in the destination, in its waters, in its farming, in its people. So the brand Pure Cork was formed in 2016. And that's a little bit about it. Our board is very simply made up of the city and the county council, and they've supported tourism in Cork for the last 14 years. And I know the Lord Mayor's on the call and John Ford. And again, I'd like to thank them personally for their involvement. I suppose sometimes they don't get enough recognition for what they've done in tourism. The board is made up of the Airport Authority. It's made up of hotels. Aaron Mansworth, who's on the call, is very much part of that board and is constantly banging the table at board meetings, making sure that Cobh's voice is heard. So, and then you have other aspects. So we have a board of about 12 people, and then I lead the company itself, which would be Visit Cork. So again, just who is funding the tourism, I think is very important. So the Cork Convention Bureau is funded by the local authorities, the Hotels Federation in Cork, and Meet in Ireland, which is the Fáilte Ireland brand internationally when it comes to bidding for international conferences. Cork Chamber, Cork County Council, the Airport Authority, and as I said, all of the hotels in Cork. So just a little bit, just quick, the team is very small, so it doesn't take up a big slide. There's 4 of us in it. I head up the company, Evelyn O'Sullivan is the manager of the Cork Convention Bureau, and her role is strictly go after conference business. Anne Cahill then deals with all the trade, so Anne has been with us since the formation of the company, and she's very much dealing with all of the trade members, and a lot of people would know her on this call. And then 2 years ago, we got this young man, Jeremy Murray, who joined us as a graduate from UCC, and he became Fáilte Ireland then gave us money last year to pay him for 2 years to do lead conversion. So that's his job within the business tourism. So just why tourism is important, and it's very simple. You know, it's worth staggering 9.2 billion, and you know that figure can never be underestimated to the Irish economy in 2019. We need to see it getting back up to that figure, and we were on a trajectory at that time, I suppose, of 7 years of constant international growth for Ireland. So tax revenue to the Irish economy was 2.1 billion back again in 2019. GDP was at 4%. 1 in 10 jobs worked in tourism. It's about 270,000 people. And 270,000 people up to yesterday, you know, are either half in jobs or 3 days a week in jobs. And that's the sad reality of where tourism has been badly affected by the pandemic. So 22 cents in every euro that's spent by tourists ends up in public money. So it's not to be underestimated as an industry. It's a very, very important industry. And sometimes I don't think it gets the credibility. And I would, without getting into politics, and I'm trying to keep everything upbeat, I would be very disappointed with government when they didn't appoint a Minister for Tourism last year. And I suppose that's one of the biggest heart-crushing things I'd seen, to give a minister 6 portfolios or 7 portfolios, and tourism was lumped in with that. I believe tourism is very important and should have its own ministerial role. Why business tourism is important, because business tourism was the hardest hit. Of all tourism aspects, business tourism was the hardest hit. It's worth 750 million in 2019 to the Irish economy. And again, that was in a massive trajectory of growth. Each tourist that comes for a conference, they usually stay to 4 to 5 days, and they spend 1,600 euros while they're here. That is a serious figure, and it is very easy for us to be measured how business tourism as against leisure is much easier to get metrics on, because each tourist is worth 1,600 euros. And again, a business tourist on average spends 3 times that of a leisure tourist. International business tourism confirmed through Cork Convention Bureau since 2007 has been in excess of 100 million euros coming in to the Cork economy. And in the last year that we would have brought in 8,000 delegates. So I just want to go back to where we were last year. Last February, the 21st, we sat below in the Radisson in Little Island, 320 people in a room, all looking forward to hearing plans of what Cork had to offer, you know, what our plans were on the international market for both business tourism and leisure tourism. And all of our stuff that we would have done was international focused. That quickly changed, as we know, on the 12th of March. So we had to, and I know Owen will do a good bit of talking about this, how we had to reinvent everything and how we had to regroup and think fast on our feet. And one of the things we did was, Conor alluded to earlier on, was the Cork Tourism Task Force. We set up this task force. We had about 6 weeks to go to the National Tourism Task Force on tourism with a plan of what Cork needed. And at the time, it's amazing how things have changed so fast. That time we were talking about going from 2 metre social distancing to 1 metre. Little did we know that we would end up where we are at level 5. So as you can see, with a very good cross section of people from the city and county, and everybody was well represented in all the different, like everything from aviation to Conor Moles sat on this group as well. And again, we gave it huge dedication for 6 weeks. And out of that, we presented a COVID-19 priority action document that was created by ourselves and this little group, and this was sent to the Tourism Task Force, the National Tourism Task Force, for a tourism recovery plan from 2020 to 23. And very much in that, it is just heart-lifting when you see the actions that we came up with are very clear in that recovery document that has been sent to government. And Tourism Ireland, Fáilte Ireland, all ourselves are all going to work off this document over the next 3 years until we get back to where we were. So from that, I suppose what we did, our board normally met every 2 months, and this time it went to regular monthly meetings. It was that serious, and we were looking at everything, how we could, I suppose, support the industry and how we could create domestic tourism and change our plan to kind of a domestic focus. So we postponed our Cork Convention Bureau membership because we felt the industry was in dire straits, and that was spread out over 24 months. And then you had all of these little groups set up, so I would represent Cork at a national level for business tourism, and I'm going to be working on that task force for the next 24 months. And again, it's how we can get business tourism back and how we can create and instill confidence back into the business tourism model. The Cork City Activation Group, the West Cork Tourism Networking, and again, I sit with Tourism Ireland on the Brexit outlooks and opportunity, because while we all talk about the C word, the B word was also very important. As we know, that came very quickly at the end of 2020. So one of the things that we did was, I suppose, Owen and myself had daily and hourly meetings I'd say from March until December. We were sick of seeing each other because we had to kind of think fast on our feet. And one of the things we had to do was we had to obviously adhere to the public health messaging, and that was so important for everybody. While our industry was on its knees, we still had to be extremely sensitive to what was happening in public health. And one of the things that we did was we released a video called Pure Cork Awaits. And I think we had a plan at the time of Pure Cork Awaits, Pure Cork Awakens, which never happened. And we'll jump on to the third one from that, Pure Cork Welcomes. The reason Awakens never happened is because the roadmap was brought forward, and then literally everything reopened on the 21st of June. And we kind of skipped that one, and we said we'd go straight on to welcoming people back to Cork. So the Pure Cork Awaits, and I know Owen might allude to this a little bit further, it was really to kind of say to people, everything that you miss about Cork is going to be still here when you return. The great thing for me in this was this video, while a lot of you, I hope, had seen it, it wasn't really for the Irish market, it was very much for the international market. So we gave it to Tourism Ireland, and within, I'd say, 48 hours, it was seen in Canada, Australia, the States, the UK, and all over Europe. It was in 5 different languages, and I think in the States alone, it hit something like 6 million views in the space of 3 or 4 days. But it really captured what Cork was about and all the stuff that you miss. And again, I didn't want to play it today because I don't want to bombard you with a lot of video stuff, but I'd love you to see it. If anyone's interested, we can show you the link to that afterwards. So that video was there, and it's still been played by Tourism Ireland in countries like ourselves that have very high restrictions in place. Again, the message was very clear, and it was just Cork will be there when we wake from the slumber, and when it does, then it'll be pure brilliant. So we used the whole I suppose the branding came very much into that. So then we would jump on to in June. We had to quickly think on our feet again. Phone calls to Owen, lots of work been done, and we produced the Pure Cork Welcomes. It was kind of take 2 of the Awaits video. And then again, Owen created a lot of these digital images, and we sent it out to all our accommodation partners and all our tourism partners, rather. And they use that messaging across their social media. And the power of social media, and even what Conor started at the beginning, is the word collaboration is the only way we're all going to win this back. If everybody works together and there's a unified message, as opposed to a single message, unified message to me would be far more important. So that campaign then went out from July to October, and there was video footage with that. As I said, there was a lot of collateral with it, and I don't want to steal Owen's thunder because there was a good bit of work done on that. I might just play just one piece of it here, and if some people might know this man here, Conor Horahan, a local banding guy. Can you hear that? No? Okay, I'm in trouble so with the sound, sorry.
We'll welcome you this summer with open arms. Hi all, Conor Horan here, hope you're all well. Quick video message to support the hashtag Pure Cork Welcomes. and Pure Cork will welcome you this summer with open arms.
So again, it's just kind of these people were very helpful to us to try and get the message out there, some well-known figures. So from that, and again, if I go back to the Pure Cork Awaits video, like Owen was very clever in his approach to that, because that was made at home. It was an at-home made video. People made it on their phones, and it just shows how resilient we all have become to be able to create something that good on a phone. So then we ran competitions around it, and we put the board were very good. They put money up, and again, I just have to thank all of the trade partners involved in that, because that money went into paid advertising, and that was crucial to it. So moving on, we came up with Pure Local then at Christmas, just before Christmas in November. We wanted everybody to support local businesses, which we still do. So on purecork.ie, we had about 150 businesses online that were selling vouchers, and we came up with the Pure Local campaign. We pushed that across our social media platforms. Again, very fortunate with our tourism partners in Cork who liked and shared that campaign. And this actually included the traders for the first time, that we included with shops. So that anyone that had an online presence, people were able to buy vouchers online and buy it with confidence. And we promoted that very well as well. So I suppose then we kind of got fed up of these beautiful videos, and we decided we'd go down the road of, we looked at sminky shorts, we took a fierce gamble, and we a bit of tongue-in-cheek, and we went to sminky shorts, a guy in Cantork, and we created Pure Cork class at Christmas, again to try and promote that whole buying online for local vouchers and support local over Christmas, which we think is a very important message. So just to go on to 2021 outlook, and I suppose just try and give positive messages where we're at. I suppose it's going to be another challenging year for the tourism industry. I think, unfortunately, the messaging the weekend about tourism wasn't very helpful. And, you know, even yesterday's announcement, I'm not sure what kind of an announcement it really was, because the tourism industry is still on lockdown. And Kevin Cullinan will be, I suppose, you know, be very strong, and so will Conor Moles, that there is no international tourism for now, and the domestic focus is going to be paramount for this year. And again, it's up to us now, along with Fáilte Ireland, to try and create a very good, I suppose, whether it's video or whatever we come up with, to try and encourage people to take home holidays as best we can this year. And so just a bit on the business tourism for 2021 to 24, as I said, Convention Bureau business was absolutely decimated, and the really hardest hit because it's the longest to come back. It's like I think when you open a hotel and you know, when you say you have weddings, nobody actually opens a hotel with weddings on the books. And we're the same when it comes to business tourism. There's probably between a 2 to 5 year lead-in time. That may get shorter. Unfortunately for us and what we do in trying to create international tourists, we were challenged, I suppose, with this whole the virtual meetings, and there was a little bit of hybrid, and hybrid is coming in a little bit where some people will be online and other people will attend the conference. I suppose we want to really see a return to full international travel and people attending conferences. So that's our challenge for the next couple of years. So business, and these are, you can easily put clear figures in these. So the business that was scheduled to take place as per the original dates, and from quarter 4 of 2021 to 2024 is now 5.4 million. Postponed due to COVID was 6.6 million. And again, we had a motto at the time in March when there was panic set in, is we ask people to postpone, don't cancel. And we use that motto as best we can, postpone but don't cancel. So a lot of that was changed to virtual. And again, you can see the virtual conference, we had a conference booked for 1,200 people in June, and it was one of the biggest international conferences. 1,200 people were going to come to Cork Airport and were going to stay in hotels in the Cork area. 1,200 international people for 4 days. And that sadly went online because of the timing. And that value was 1,092,000. Cancelled and will not return is 1.9 million. And then needs to be converted, which are still in the pipeline, but people are unsure, waiting for clear guidance, and that's 8.8 million. And we hope that that business can be converted from leads to conversion. So again, we're continuing to bid for future conferences. The CSRI, it's a concrete conference for 2024. That's in the bid process. We create these bid documents, and then on Friday, when these slides were made last week, the Global Student Studies Conference has come in 2022. That was actually confirmed on Friday. So that's great, that's going ahead. And then we have things like Roof by the Sky, which is going to be a very interesting conference that's starting out. It's a homemade conference, and that's going ahead from the 11th to the 13th of May, and it's actually in County Cork, and it's very near Cobh. It's going to take place in Photo Resort. And the likes of these conferences are very important homegrown, because we believe there's huge value in these growing over time. And one of the great ambitions of these people is to get Michelle Obama to speak at one of these conferences within the first 3 years of it, between 22 and 25. So we ran familiarisation sessions then since January, where we gave an opportunity to, we call the road less travelled attractions. And while everybody knows the bigger ones, we try and get a smaller conference or smaller attractions to give a 10-minute pitch to the audience. And the audience actually was, while it was local Cork trade, we felt hoteliers, it was an educational for hoteliers, but equally then we got tour operators to come on board, destination management companies, we got professional conference organisers, all of these in Dublin to come on and listen. And we have 100 people every single Wednesday morning. It's on exactly after this now. So we have about 100 people every Wednesday morning, between 70 and 100 coming on. And then all of these sessions are recorded, and Tourism Ireland send them out to their market offices. So it's very important for us to have these smaller attractions get their voice heard as well, and activity providers. Then Cork, Owen came up with this Pure Cork Like campaign, where again people made short videos to say what their favourite thing about Cork is and what they like about Cork. And that has been proven to be very successful, that Owen has extended it. So again, I'm just going to finish off on purecork.ie is our website. It's important, as is discoverireland.com, that you make sure your listings are up there and that they're relevant. I know some people are time precious, but it's absolutely vital to make sure that we have the correct information. And you know, this is our Bible for Cork. It's the official tourism website for Cork, and to me it's a Bible of what things to do. There's a huge amount of work going to keep it up to date and as a relevant website. And I would urge everybody on this call, and anyone that's not on the call, that you can get the message out to, just to make sure your listings are correct on it, because you'd absolutely hate the last thing in the world is for somebody to go on to this and to get the wrong messaging. We kept it a very clear site, what's on in Cork, things to do, where to stay, where you can eat, where you can drink, when the time is right, and then little itineraries for families. We've included families, what you can do, and then Cork County Council last year created a What's Near Me map, which is a GIS map. I'll be able to show you a little bit more. So again, it's just so important to keep the imagery right and to make sure that we have all the information correctly as well. And you can see on this, all of these as well, is you can see the COVID charter up here, which is very important, and then the buy voucher down here as well. We've included those in the last 12 months. So the Titanic Bar and Grill, just to give you an idea again, and the Titanic experience is again, the safety charter is up here, and the GIS map is here. You can see the location map here. So again, just to make sure all of these are relevant and update, Photo House, Catherine Murphy and Brian Murphy. So all of these are just very important to make sure we have all the information correct. And then the What's Near Me map is just the new addition to it. That's a GIS map. You can see when you go on to purecork.ie or visit cork.ie, any one of those will bring you to this. And again, it's just what's near me. So it gives people, the end user, a chance to see if they decide to stay in Cobh or decide to stay in Cork City, what's within a 20-25 mile radius of them and what they can do. It's proved to be very successful. The reason I put this one up here again is, I suppose, just for anyone that wants to update their business or add their business, we've made it very simple. Go on to purecork.ie, go down to the very bottom of the page and add your business or add an event. So these two are very important. If you get stuck, info@visitcork.ie and we'll make sure it's done for you. We have a moderator so that we don't get any untoward businesses or wrong information. So we have a moderator on that, so it'll just take about 48 hours for it to go up live. With events, they go up within 24 hours, and that's a 7-day week operation. And then if you want to download the brand and use the brand, which would encourage you, is just here at the bottom of the screen as well. So just go down to the very bottom of purecork.ie and that's what you come across. So the COVID charter Fáilte Ireland brought out, absolutely paramount, very important. You, unfortunately, in the tourism business can't apply for any grants unless you have it. And all consumer sentiments and all consumer surveys have shown over the last 12 months that safety is absolutely number one. Number one, it hasn't changed in anything international that I've seen, any data from the Tourism Ireland customer surveys or the Fáilte Ireland ones. It's very important. Fáilte Ireland came up with that. We've all bought into it. We would absolutely encourage it, and if you do have it, you need to display it, that people need to feel reassured that safety is paramount in your business and you're following the guidelines. So that's on the Fáilte Ireland website. Now the Business Tourism Continuity Scheme, which I'm not going to go into in detail, was released last week, 55 million. Fáilte Ireland and the government have made it easy for businesses that are not eligible for the CRSS payment to be able to apply for this grant. And it's very important if you are in a business, and all these businesses are available for it. Places like Photo Wildlife Park were exempt from the CRSS, but they would be eligible for this Business Tourism Continuity Scheme grant that's open. And Fáilte Ireland have made it very easy, and the payments are made within 2 weeks, I think, of you've been eligible for the grant. So the eligibility is there. Any information you want that we can send on to you as well. And the business support hub that Fáilte Ireland created, again, I would urge people to go on to this. It's very good. All the guidelines for reopening, the supports are there, operational guidelines. They've made it very easy for people to follow it and very simplified. So again, I'd urge that one. Sorry, I think I'm stuck in slides here. Okay, so I'm just going to actually just finish up because we were going to try and play a video, which I might be able to do at the very end of Owen's one. But now I'm going to hand you over to Owen Kennedy from Update Digital. And Owen, I suppose, I spoke about him a bit in it. He has been our content creator. He has been, I suppose, our go-to person for the past 2 years, but especially over the last 12 months, we've leaned on him a lot. For our social media stuff and for any digital campaigns. Before that, we didn't do domestic campaigns. All our focus was international, and then we had to kind of retreat very quickly. And I suppose I just want to say a personal thanks to Owen for that. I'm going to hand you over to Owen, and thank you.
Thanks very much, Seamus. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Lord Mayor. Thanks for the kind words, James. I actually used to be able to wave over at Conor Moles and his colleagues from the office here. We're just at the end of Lax Quay, looking across at the former harbour offices. But good morning to everyone. As you can probably tell from what Seamus has said there, last year, and you don't need anyone to tell you, it was a peculiar year. I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember the film called The Year of Living Dangerously, but we would refer to it as the Year of Living Flexibly. Just an amazing year. We were very lucky to have, I suppose, Seamus placed a lot of trust in us and gave us a lot of, gave us a lot of latitude in terms of how we kind of worked on the campaigns. So we're very grateful for that, because our role really, and working with Seamus and the team, was, despite all the constant changes that were going on last year, our role was to keep Cork in consumers' minds for when it was safe to travel again. And I suppose for Cobh is particularly blessed to have a couple of its own ambassadors who are always talking about Cobh, as Seamus mentioned earlier on. I suppose Aaron Mansworth, Kevin Culnan, and I suppose Lee Gillen and people like Deirdre Shaughnessy as well, who are always kind of keeping Cobh's name out there, and a lot of people on the call here as well. I suppose I'm very heartened on a personal capacity as well to see architects like Julia appointed as, from the county council to I think she's going to do phenomenal work in changing the public realm, changing Cobh as a place to visit, to live in, looking at what she's done in Clon. So I think that's a really exciting, positive development as well. So for us working with James and team, the job is really, how do we make Cork stand out in a sea of sameness over the coming years as we come into the recovery phase when every tourism market is going to be fighting for the same pool of business. How do we stand out, and how do we help to do that? So that has been the big challenge. And what you'll see from the clips that Seamus has maybe shown there as well, using the Pure Cork Awaits campaign, which I think is sadly, when we made that nearly a year ago, little did we think that we could almost reuse it a year down the road. So what was important with that campaign was that it was made from home, as Seamus says. So it was very much the timing of it was right. The messaging was very much in line with the sentiment of the market, in that it was made from home. It was contributor clips. We got people to kind of pull it together for us as well, expressing a tone of hope that everything will be there. All that's great about Cork will still be there after all this is over. And a year down the road, we're still saying the same thing. So that was very important. The timing, the messaging, the tone of voice that was used. Again, that was something that is crucially important with any of these messaging, any of these campaigns. And I would say that to any of you as well that are working on your own campaigns. These kind of things are incredibly important. Your timing, that it's the messaging is in line with the sentiment of the market at the time. The tone of voice is right. The agility and speed of response, I think this year was more important than ever. And I saw a question in there from John in Spike earlier on about what changes in strategy might there be. I think building in, allowing for more agility, speed of response is critical, and having creativity there to stand out in. And I'm sure Kevin Cullinan in particular would see this on international campaigns. Everybody's going after the same pool of business over the next couple of years. How are we going to stand out? And I suppose we're very lucky, as I say, that Seamus kind of is actually far more creative than he'd let on to be, and came up with the ideas of doing things like working on animated campaigns that were built around humor. So like the Pure Local one that Seamus talked about, this made with Sminky Shorts, it was designed to be different, and allowed us, because it was appealing to a local audience, a local market, allowed us to be more, I think, colloquial with the language is probably the best thing we could say. I think we probably pushed the envelope a little bit with it, but we got away with it. We're still here anyway. But the job there is to support the industry, and similarly, the campaign at the moment, Pure Cork Like, it's built around getting people involved, getting people engaged. And I look at, and I've always been a fan of, and Seamus would know this, of what's happening out in Cobh, because you're, be it the Tidy Towns or, the Titanic experience, there are huge amount, it is a disproportionately active community online, particularly on social media. I think that's very positive. And I think what we'd love to see is perhaps how we can kind of work a bit more closely with you. And I think if you could maybe encourage people to use the Pure Cork hashtag a little bit more, to maybe tag us a bit more and stuff, we will be able to share it and leverage across our own platforms a little bit better, But we've seen that with the Pure Cork Like campaign. As I say, people are sharing, what they like about Cork on their phone. And I know you should actually look at Kevin Cullinan's one, because I was nearly in tears. I was nearly thinking of moving to Cobh after hearing his, because he was so passionate about it. So I think that's been very positive. We want to get people engaged, get people involved, and keep and provide a platform for you and your businesses to access a wider audience. So I'm very conscious of your time as well. So I am skipping. I don't use slides, by the way, for these, because I think Seamus has covered everything on it.
We just go to the questions. So Owen,
Yeah.
will we?
Sure.
Yeah, great. So Kevin Cullinan, you have a question. Would you like to ask it?
Good morning, Johanna.
Morning, Kevin.
Seamus and Owen, the camera probably doesn't show the blushes, but thank you for the kind comments. I suppose there's been a lot of plans, revival plans, recovery plans, resilient plans. I'm just wondering what practical steps those of us on the call today can take to, I suppose, influence some of the key stakeholders so that, you know, our businesses survive and revive and actually become more resilient for when this all passes? Because at the moment, I think we're all craving a little bit of hope.
Yeah. If I could just try and answer that as best I can, we would have had a good few meetings with politicians at a fairly high level. And the big thing for us is that survival, is that businesses like Cork Airport is absolutely, as is the port, they are so important to the infrastructure of Cork and the survival of our industry for international business. As you know, Kevin, we've had many discussions, I suppose, about different routes and, you know, the importance of routes, especially in business tourism, because people want it as easy as possible rather than going through so many different airports. But we've asked government to make sure the infrastructure is there, and if we lose out on hotels, or we lose out on the airport, or we lose out on routes coming into the airport, and they don't get support at government level and at the very highest level, then we're all in serious difficulty. You know, it's going to be a bigger challenge. I just take one coach operator here in Cork, that's one of the biggest in the country, 77 coaches sitting on a stand on the Mallow Road. And sadly for them, they bought 18 new coaches in January of 2020. Huge investment for a family, and these are an aging fleet now, you know, no more than the airline industry. So I think it's very important for us to make sure that all of our trade partners, that we would call it, or our industry, survive this, and that government support them at the highest level for now, but more importantly in the future, when the time is right for international travel to resume. And that's all we can say is we are at painstaking asking at the very highest level, and I know Tourism Ireland are banging that drum as is Fáilte Ireland, just to make sure that the industry survives this onslaught that we've had. And I suppose that's it from how I would try and answer that as best I can.
Thank you, Seamus. We might just move on to Hendrik Verwey. You have a question? You there?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's for Seamus, I suppose, and it follows on from Kevin's one, really. You know, I suppose we never thought we'd be here, that, you know, international travel has been demonized, really, you know, from starting with the Diamond Princess, and then Italian rugby games that didn't happen, and now we're gone to the stage where, you know, I think people are saying international travellers are not welcome in Ireland, and some people are actually saying, well, we'll do fine without them, you know, we don't need them. So how do we come back from that in the eyes of the public? You know, I don't think the value of tourism is really fully understood. You know, people kind of hear the figure of 250,000 jobs, but, you know, it's not really in context a lot of the time. So how do we come back from that? And I suppose it's a positive action that we could probably all take. And we think back to the year of the gathering. And one of the pillars of that was for Irish people here to invite people back. You know, and I know there's a pent up demand all over the world now for friends and family to come to Ireland to see people that they haven't seen, I suppose, when it all opens up again, probably 2 years. So I suppose we all have a part to play there, that we can, you know, invite people to come to Ireland and then be a tourist in Ireland with them, you know, and that could really be the kickstart that domestic and international tourism needs to get it going again. You know, it'll be a start at least.
Yeah, you're right, Hendrik. I suppose just from our point of view, you know, we are in talks regularly for Tourism Ireland for the international business. And, you know, on the call to Niall Gibbons only last Thursday, like, he keeps, every time I speak to him, he keeps saying, make sure you have a war chest now and you're ready to rock. The very minute the international travel is given any bit of a green light, that you are ready as a destination to be sitting on an Ireland stand saying, give every reason why you should come to Cork. I know we have the infrastructure in Cork. I know we have the fantastic, including your own place, we have fantastic saleable product. But we just need to be able to tell people again and reassure people, one, that Ireland is a safe destination to travel to, and we have that with our Cobh Charter, and that's why I emphasise that one with Fáilte Ireland's Cobh Charter. And the second thing is we have very good infrastructure, and we have great people in our industry. I mean, anyone that knows anybody in the tourism industry, we are a resilient bunch of people. I mean, from even my days in a hotel, you know, in the hotel business, I know how resilient hoteliers are. And at the end of the day, domestic tourism is great, and it was really good last summer, but it's not there all year round. And we talk about pent-up demand in Ireland, and these are actual figures. I think it was something like a survey was done last May, and the pent-up demand for Irish people to go and stay in an Irish hotel was something like 70%, 75%. And Aaron will correct me in this one if I'm wrong, but I think something like only 42% actually travelled. So while they said they were going to travel, they didn't really travel. And then we have, I suppose, like for us, it's very important to get people back into Cork and have confidence in getting back into Cork. We were the #1 destination for domestic tourism last summer, and we're going to take a little bit of credit for that we worked very closely with the 2 local authorities, and we did very good campaigns that resonated with the domestic tourist. But the role of Visit Cork was always going to be the international stuff, and I can only give you my word that once we are given the green light to be back promotable, the Kevin Cullinans, the Conor Moles and ourselves will be back out in the international markets, beating that drum very hard to get people back into Cork as best we can. So I'm not sure whether that answers your question or it's a politician's answer, but that's exactly what our aim is to try and do.
Thank you, Seamus. So we're just going to have time for 2 more questions now. One from John Crotty. Sorry, not John Crotty, John Gately, apologies.
Yeah, just Seamus, one for you. Just, I suppose, wearing my hotel developer's hat. Is the amount of new properties being opened or in the pipeline, particularly in light of the recent refusal of planning in Dublin due to overcapacity, you know, is it sustainable going into the future, the near future, or where do you see it going?
If I could answer that as honest as I can, John, pre-COVID, we would have silently been looking for more hotel rooms. We would have been asking for a big box hotel, if we could, where you could have 300 bedrooms, all singing, all dancing, so that we could you see the numbers of conference people. If 1,200 people come into Cork City, you know, literally Cork City is full. And then it disperses out, and we all know that, you know, the rising tide and all of that. But I worry now, after seeing the damage that this pandemic has done to our industry, is there going to be a great need for all of the hotels, new hotels coming on stream? Our ask of the tourist authorities is to put something in place to help existing hotels and existing infrastructure within the tourism industry to be able to once we come out of this pandemic, to be able to refurbish their properties. These properties have had no investment and won't have investment for a couple of years. So let's do a good job on what we already have, the infrastructure we have, rather than trying to create new stuff. I do worry, to answer your question in short, that is there a great need for a lot of these new hotels? Because a certain amount, and Kevin Cullinan, again, I bow to you on this one, a lot of international travel, as we'd seen it, is going to change. Whether we like it or we don't like it. I can never see the Apple computers on the short term bringing back into 8,000 or 10,000 people travelling into Cork again, when a lot of this can be done online. That's my fear. I mean, we'd love to see it, that everybody just forgets what happened and let's all move away. We're all sick of virtual. And that's why I do not promote the word hybrid conferences, because we want people to actually physically come and stay in the destination. But I do worry about the whole business tourism. And again, Aaron's on this call, and Aaron might be able to answer this as well, but I can't see the likes of the business travel that we had Monday to Thursday within Cork City, huge dependency on hotels in it, coming back to any level where it was. Would that be right, Aaron?
Yeah, I suppose we're engaging with a lot of corporates currently, because I suppose the difficult piece for Cork and you know, Cork City, and as you said, it would flow out, is that we would depend on over 60% of corporate business to fill our hotels year round pre-pandemic. And I suppose from what we're hearing from them is that particularly in the areas of liability and all that, these companies won't force people to travel until, you know, liability, indemnity, all this is 100% covered. But just one quick point I'd make as well, just to recognise both James and Owen, like you've understated what you've done for Cork. through this pandemic in terms of the domestic business, because while Cork was front and centre last summer, even now, currently at this moment, business on the books for this July is 21% nationally. It's 20% for July, 21% for July, 20% for August, 19% for September. Cork County currently on the books is 38%. So, you know, it's almost double the national average at this moment. That's down to an awful lot of groundwork done. And just to go back to the collaboration piece as well, absolutely phenomenal. You know, it's you know, the more the people can get together, utilize their heads. And I think that's where we were successful last summer, where we saw people that may not collaborate in the past really came to the table. But it's about doing that now, because once people come to Cork, we have to give them an experience to remember, because what we actually need is we need people to holiday and break in Cork 3 or 4 times this year. And that repeat business is absolutely critical for us to survive, to be honest, you know. But well done, Seamus and Owen. Thank you for all your helps and supports. And Johanna, great presentation.
And Johanna, if I can just to finish off on this one as well, I suppose, when we go out and promote Cork in Visit Cork, there is no divisions, there is no lines between the city and the county. We promote Cork as a single destination. The international tourist is not interested whether we have east, west, south, north. You know, they just want to know the Cork is a destination and it's easy accessible. And I did see, I was very privileged to be able to see the new public realm ideas for Cobh, and Lord God Almighty, like, it's going to be spectacular. Like, it's going to be, I could do the Donald Trump in it. It's going to be amazing. One of the best things that Cork is ever going to see. But there should be no difference of being able to travel from the city. And when I saw these images of Cobh, the new public realm, and you were saying, like, we need to be looking at water taxis to be able to come from the city to Cobh if we want to on a Sunday afternoon or a Tuesday. And that's the kind of way we should be looking at it. And that's all I wanted to say, is I suppose that we have no divisions. There is no south, east, west, north. It's the 4-letter word, and that's Cork.
I think the public realm is going to make a huge difference to Cobh, Seamus, and I think even having a passenger ferry around the harbour, that'll all happen in time, I'm sure. So that's why the future is quite bright for Cobh. Now we're just going to finish up with the Lord Mayor, Joe Kavanagh, a native of Cobh, and very pleased to have him here this morning. So Joe, you just wanted to ask a question, and then we're going to finish up.
Yeah, just very briefly, Johanna, well, it's more of a comment than anything else. I just want to congratulate yourself and all the team in the Cobh Harbour Chamber for the magnificent work and putting Cobh, where I grew up for 30 years, by the way, born and reared there, and very proud of the town. And they have a pain in the brain here in the City Hall listening to me, as Aaron will verify, listening to me shouting about Cobh. And I want to congratulate Seamus as well for the fantastic work. Seamus and his team create a reason for people to come to Cork. And Joanna, you're doing exactly, and your team, for Cobh. And I think the one thing Cobh, in my opinion, is a sleeping giant in the southern region. Absolutely. And it's got the potential to be the new Kinsale and better. And it's got all the ingredients. We've got everything in Cobh, except now we need to improve in things like parking. Connectivity is a big problem there in terms of the Photo Road and so on. But Cobh, when I was growing up a few years ago, was a big festival town. Everybody who grew up in Cobh remembers the Folk Festival, which was the highlight of the year, and also the regatta in August. It attracted everybody into the town, and it was a real, it was a reason to go to the town. But we need that sort of thing on an ongoing basis in Cobh. It's got the potential to be an absolutely magnificent place to go. So Joanna, I just want to congratulate you and your team. Thank you. And Hendrik and everybody else there in Cobh for putting Cobh on the map, and in particular my friend John Gately, who's a fantastic resource for the town, given his experience in the hospitality industry, and having the likes of Aaron Mansworth and people like that. So thanks everybody, and I'm very proud to be a Cobh man in City Hall, shouting from the rooftops, and hopefully we get down there again. So well done, Joanne. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I think we better finish up. We could kind of probably be here all morning. So I'd like to say a huge thank you to all of you. Thank you to the sponsors. Thank you to the team in the office, Kim in particular. She's been fantastic. She's done fantastic work in the office. And Lee Gillen Events for running all this tech, which I certainly couldn't do without her, that's for sure. And thank you to our guest speakers, obviously yourself, Seamus and Owen, and to our spotlight speakers. So we have a busy kind of agenda. Our next breakfast meeting is tomorrow week, Thursday week. So if you haven't registered, please do so. We have Minister Michael McGrath as our guest speaker, and again we'll have a few spotlights as well, so look forward to seeing you then. And again, thank you so much, Seamus and Owen, for your insight into Cobh and your helpful information for us. It's been great. And
Johanna, I just might send you the link to the video. I could play it, but it's just, I think it's very important because Cobh features in it, and it's the Pure Cork Welcomes video, so you can share it with anybody on the call afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.